from People, Katy Tur says she was puzzled when her father, Zoey, came out as trans. You gotta be joking. Yes, absolutely. It should be taken as a joke, but something tells me that Katy ignored any and all instincts she had and just went along with the narrative. But my name's Eric. This channel is called Report and Opine. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. I'm absolutely begging you.
I'm begging you, please. Come on, please.
The algorithm is a beast, so it would help me out a lot and it would cost you nothing. But if you want to help me out even more and spend some money, go ahead and buy my book, New York City 2020, Gotham Unglued, from Amazon.com. That link will be in the description. But this article is from 2022. Zoey Tur also spoke in an interview that aired Sunday, saying about her estranged daughter, "She really looked up to me and I had failed her." Yes, so that's true. Both of these things in the headlines, the headline and the subheader, are both true. You got to be joking, and you did fail your daughter. But here's a video of her trying to sell her book. So People magazine, for the record, has done back-to-back, well, they did back-to-back articles on this all the way back in 2022, because they were really trying to make sure that you knew everything was bigoted and believe in the weirdo transformer gender agenda nonsense and buy this lady's book.
She is an award-winning journalist. Her parents are legendary broadcasters in their own right. Katy Tur shares her surprising family story.
Yeah, and it is really strange that we have this guy, Bob Tur, who is made famous by covering Rodney King and covering O.J. Simpson as a full-grown man. He was already a journalist for multiple decades at that point in time. But somewhere along the line, he decided, oh, I'm actually a woman. Katy, who was also a journalist, said, this doesn't make sense, but I can only assume ignored that and just went with the narrative. Absolute insanity. And we're supposed to believe that these people are real journalists. We're supposed to believe that these people are telling you the truth. Everything is on the level, right? Of course, Katy totally embarrassed herself trying to get Orange Man bad up in Trump Tower. Do we all remember that clip?
Oh, give me a break, Katy. Go ahead, next question.
Right? So none of this makes any sense, but somehow in 2022, Katy Tur said you got to be joking, but I can only assume that since then she has come around the corner.
If you want to see everything in Los Angeles, you can't beat the view from a helicopter.
I'm Bob Tur. I'm a helicopter pilot and reporter, and have been for the past 20 years here in the City of Angels.
And for much of the 80s and 90s, news chopper pilot Bob Tur and wife Marika Gerard saw it all. On any given story, Bob...
Wait, so what happened? Bro, through the 80s and 90s, you were living your dream. You had the career of your choice with your wife, and threw that all away to become a woman and then grab little Ben Shapiro by the neck?
Both know
nuclei. Yeah,
chromosomes don't necessarily mean you're male or female.
Gender.
With gender
identity. Go ahead. No, so
especially, but even so, you have a thing like Klinefelter's syndrome. So you don't know what you're talking about. You're not educated on genetics.
Would you like to discuss the genetics? Or
well, no,
what
no.
are your genetics? Sir?
So I'd stay away from the genetics and back to the brain scans.
You cut that out now, or you'll go home in an ambulance.
Yeah, that seems mildly inappropriate for a political discussion.
And you can say what you want about Little Ben right now, but that was a really weird clip. It didn't make any sense. Well, none of it makes any sense.
Who then flew for local CBS stations, would typically be first over the scene, and Marika would lean out the open door with her camera to capture the story, and at times, history. There were the '92 LA riots, the O.J. Simpson car chase.
It would appear that the...
And I guess maybe this is part of the reason why you decide to transition at, more than 50 plus years old. Same thing with Bernie Wagonblast out in New York, who is the voice of the New York City subway. Oh, stand clear of the closing doors, please. Now, I think that job could have been eliminated at the advent of Siri, but there's something super sinister about this. So with Wagon Blast, somebody probably came along and said, we can get rid of this job yesterday unless you want to do this transition. And everybody knows you and you're super popular, and just tell them that you're a lady now, even though you're 60 years old. And with this guy, maybe all of this trauma, OJ and 92 riots, maybe he decided he needed to do something different. And it's also very strange that loosely affiliated with the OJ trial was Bruce Jenner or Caitlyn Jenner or whatever, who also changed and then goes on, Sean, I'm sorry, Sean, this has gone too far.
We have to stand up. We have to have, America has to have a stand-up mentality. Yes, I have done a lot in my life. Going all the way back to the Olympics, I had a lot of talks, actually, even with you, Sean, and other people at Fox when we were negotiating this deal. As you might know, I am trans.
Yeah, you're right. And you kicked the crazy train off, right? And I would be willing to bet, I haven't done the research on this, but Caitlyn was among the first in popular culture to come out as the opposite gender. And Bob probably didn't do it until well after that. That's just my guess.
The Bronco will continue north on the 405 freeway.
And more catastrophes than you can count.
Great picture.
They started the Los Angeles News Service.
I'm gonna get you.
And when they started a family, Katy here and later James, they brought him up in the sky.
Growing up.
I mean, okay, I guess I get it. Like, the grass is always greener, but it's like, bro, you were living in LA, you had a career, you had a wife, you had a family, and you threw it all away to become a woman?
How did you see your mom and dad? When I was a kid, they were the coolest people in the world. We had a helicopter. I got to go up in a helicopter. I knew how to fly a helicopter. It was a really unique and interesting childhood that nobody else had. Good to be with you.
So I guess that's it. I guess we are learning that in real time. That you basically had it so easy, your father had it so easy, or maybe he didn't, maybe it was incredibly difficult. Maybe he scratched and clawed his way to the top and then made it. So you went on to MSNBC to claim your victim card, your awful victim card.
The awfuls, the affluent white female liberals in the Democrat Party, and that they're so divisive. You know, the ones focused on making sure that your children have hormones because they've decided at the age of 10 that, well, I'm not a boy, I'm a girl, or vice versa, something to that effect.
And your father turned into a woman because otherwise he would have just been a successful man playing golf in his retirement, in his later years, in his twilight years.
I'm Katy Tur.
You might know Katy Tur as an MSNBC anchor or as a mother of two, married to our own Tony DeCopel.
How do you get Mexico to pay for that wall?
Only if I'm president.
How does that happen?
And you might recall her locking horns with then presidential candidate Donald Trump on the campaign trail.
Puff the magic dragon.
But in the 1980s, Katy was just a cute little kid with a seat on the wildest ride in town.
There they are.
In the documentary Whirlybird, you can hear her describing a crash scene.
What do you see?
I see some people in yellow coats. I think they're firefighters.
So, I mean, maybe that is it. Maybe it's all the trauma coverage, right? I mean, with Bruce living with the Kardashians, that'll certainly turn you into a crazy person. So maybe that's what's happening. But even with all that, this is still happened far too fast for my liking. We're talking about 10 or 15 years tops. If I wanted to be generous, because I've said a million times, I went to college in San Francisco, and this wasn't a thing. There was drag queens and gay guys all over the place, and they go to nightclubs and then come out in sweatsuits like regular strippers did. But now they're doing this. I mean, they're quite literally forcing your agreement by, I mean, or they'll try to ruin your life. Now that we're all kind of bouncing back from that, but for several years, they would destroy anybody who questioned a tiny little bit of this weirdo agenda.
The images were wild, and I was in a front row seat for it. Literally in the helicopter, feeling the flames on my shins.
You could feel it.
You could feel it.
That close.
Oh, yeah.
And how old were you?
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Wow.
Yeah.
In her latest book, Rough Draft, from an imprint of Simon & Schuster, a division of CBS's parent company, Katy Tur describes her parents as broadcast pioneers who often put themselves in harm's way. Katy's mom, Marika.
Now that I think about it,
Her actual mom, her birth mother, not her biological father, who is now parading around as her mother, and of course, grabbing little Ben Shapiro by the back of the neck.
Zoey, I'd stay away from the genetics and back to the brain scans.
You cut that out now, or you'll go home in an ambulance.
Yeah, that seems mildly inappropriate for a political discussion.
I mean, it's just, this is beyond parody. And, I mean, I actually know someone personally who decided to transition, like fully transition, like full medical transition in their late 40s or early 50s. Like, this is actually happening.
that I think this is ridiculous that the both of us were up in the air doing this dangerous stuff, and we have 2 kids. You know, what's going to happen if something happens to both of us?
But at the time,
it was too much excitement, too much fun. It really was. It was exciting and it was fun.
But the fun was often fleeting. Katy Tur says her dad could be demanding, abusive, and at times violent.
Oh, and let me guess. As soon as he turned into a lady, that all stopped? Is that what you're going to say?
Would come home in these fits of anger. Something would set him off. And he would get so out of control that he would throw his fist through a wall.
Okay, whatever. Maybe this happened. I actually kind of doubt it, because these weirdos are drama queens to the max. And if you do, they will turn a mountain from a molehill, right? I mean, they will just cry and scream about anything. And it doesn't matter. And of course, you can't question that. You're gonna question Katy Tur and her father, her lived experience? You can't do that, even though she's a white woman. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And of course, as we know by now, it has nothing to do with your race and more about your willingness, the content of your character and willingness to capitulate to the mob at any given point.
And it happened often. I mean, we would go to the store, buy plaster them up. I remember him throwing batteries at my mother. The violence was always there. It felt like it was normal, like that was just how a relationship worked. You got angry, you got violent, you yelled and you...
Okay, so maybe he was angry and violent, and then he turned into a lady and he's not angry and violent anymore. But either way you slice it, you got dealt a bad hand, I guess, even though he was a successful journalist and you're a successful journalist. So you somehow seem to make it work. And this cry for help, this book, is only furthering that narrative.
You screamed, and then everything was fine.
But over time, she says, the situation got worse.
And the reason we didn't call the cops was because Bob Tur's name in a police blotter means Bob Tur can't make any more money, and oh my God, we need to buy groceries.
Right, but, that's why it kept going.
But she was a successful journalist too, or she was just the photographer for him?
And that's why it always keeps going.
Yeah.
Because there's always somebody who forgives the person or hides it or puts it under the... and who actually benefits from that? Nobody.
My point is, it's not your fault. It's Dad's fault.
There's a lot of fault to go.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of fault to go around, right? Kids, you're all just awful.
Kids, you're both just awful.
Around.
Here we go. Last week, we took Katy Tur on her first helicopter ride in more than 20 years. Some things, like the feel of a chopper in flight, never change.
How amazing is this? Who gets to grow up like this? Nobody.
And some change has been dramatic. In 2013, her father called her with news that came as a bit of a shock.
My dad said, I am a woman.
Lie detector test determined that was a lie.
And I said, what? And my dad said, I'm a woman. I'm transitioning.
So that was probably around the same time as Bruce Jenner. So, I mean, if your conspiratorial brain is going to just run wild, you might say that OJ and the Kardashians basically set this entire crazy train into motion.
I'm going to become a woman. And I remember being, at first, puzzled, saying, you got to be joking. Are you kidding? What are you talking about? And
correct.
My dad was adamant. I'm the wrong person. I'm going to become the right person. Don't you see? This is why I've been so angry. And it was really just, it was a lot.
Now I'm here.
But now you accept it, and you can't use the excuse, oh, I've been so angry because I'm actually a woman. Because you were a woman when you manhandled Ben Shapiro. You were angry then. Well, what's your excuse then?
With my dogs.
Zoey Tur now lives in Northern California.
Katy and I were very close. She really looked up to me. And I failed her. No father wants to fail their daughter.
Let me tell you what she says you did when she was younger. She says you get so angry that you punch holes in the wall and that you threw things like batteries at Marika.
Yeah, but I'm a lady now. I don't do that anymore.
Is that true?
Throwing batteries? Probably, yeah. Punching walls? There were a couple. I was in the news business, and we were under extraordinary pressure. I could be very intimidating, for sure. And if the kids felt I was intimidating, I apologize. I did the best I could.
Katy Tur says they haven't seen each other in 10 years. And while they have different takes on why they're estranged, it's clear there's still love there.
I'm not hiding anymore.
Bro, I'm sorry. You've got to be kidding me. Right? We're taking this seriously. Who is taking this seriously? And I guess you're forced to for a couple of years, but I think even that's going by the wayside. I think, and I could be wrong, hopefully I'm not, there is a little bit of sanity coming back, right? We've all had, as some might say, a belly full of this nonsense.
And if it takes an act of public humiliation in front of a camera to make Katy feel better and feel vindicated, so be it.
What? You turned into a woman to make your daughter feel better and feel vindicated, and you're sacrificing yourself with an embarrassing public act? To how? How, Sway?
Happy to do that. I love her that much.
So I'm also afraid of heights. You are? You can't get me anywhere near an edge, and I will seize up. But I can lean, I can press myself up against the glass and feel totally fine.
Katy Tur knows that looking down can be both scary and exhilarating. And the same is true of looking back.
So it's understandable and commendable facing your past. Why put it out in the public? It's a really good story. My parents...
Well, duh. I want to sell some books and make a little greenback. You know what I'm saying? Why? She's in the media business. I mean, she's basically an actor.
Did amazing things. They went from nothing.
In fact, I could make the argument she is 100% legitimately an actor. She works for MSNBC. I mean, you'd have to be. Or Stone Cold Stupid, which I don't think she is.
Nothing to something big and important. And who wouldn't want to read that story? I want that story to be down. I want my kids to know this. I want them to know my parents the way that I knew my parents, even if they never end up meeting their grandfather. And part of the story is the violence. If I only wrote the good stuff, it would have been a lie. It's a business where you're not supposed to lie. You're supposed to tell the truth, and this is the truth.
Oh, yeah, in the media, okay. Says Katy Tur. All right, I guess that's it. This makes no sense, though, right? But I take it back. It makes perfect sense. This is par for the insanity course, and it's proof of the weird, incestuous nature of the media with the CNN people who are married to the White House people and the Transformers who are related to reporters and Fredo and Andrew. And this level of activism is on a completely different level, right? You have the regular weirdos, the awfuls, and the black newsheads, the Van Lathens, and the D.L. Hugleys and all that stuff. But I don't think even those people are crazy enough to get under a knife. And look, I don't know if Zoey Tur really went under the knife. It wouldn't even matter, though. Because when you are more than 50 years old with a wife and 2 children, and this is the way you choose to go, it doesn't make sense. But, I mean, imagine having somebody that dedicated on your team dedicated to your cause.